My name's Ben Birchall. I'll be chairing this evening's chat with these writers here. I'm one of the breakfasters on 3RRR in the mornings, and I'm still awake, which is a good sign. I also do a little bit of writing, but mainly it's about the Carlton Football Club, so I don't want to get any of you offside. It might come as a bit of a shock to those of you with a weekend getaway in the Hamptons on lay-by, but being a writer is not all about six-figure advances and rapturous signing queues. So tonight we're going to speak to three talented and varied writers about what it's really like down there in the trenches, dodging 2-star reviews and wallowing in the slop of endless revisions for the glory of being a writer. So firstly, we've got Paddy O'Reilly, who's the author of a collection of award-winning stories, The End of the World, a novel, The Factory, and a novella, Deepwater. She's also won the Age Short Story Competition in 2002. She's worked as a translator in Japan, written screenplays, and also worked as an additional screenwriter on AFI-nominated films. And we've got Sean Condon, who's the author of 6 books, including Sean and David's Long Drive and My Damn Life. He's also written for newspapers and magazines, including a regular column in The Good Weekend, and he also co-wrote one episode of a sitcom for Foxtel in 2009 that wasn't picked up for a series. Sorry, Sean. He has just handed over his latest manuscript to his agent, so we'll needle him for information about that also. And also Meg Mundell, who she's been published widely in Australian newspapers, journals and magazines, including The Age, The Monthly, Meanjin and The Big Issue. Her first novel, Black Glass, is out now, came out earlier this year, and it's a fragmented, inventive and quintessentially Melbourne take on speculative fiction set in a dystopian future. It's quite a read. So please welcome our writers. So I guess to get us started, I wanted to talk about, going through your CVs, you all do lots of stuff, like lots of different stuff. Is it, so you swap between fiction and non-fiction and screenwriting, and Paddy, you do translating. Is that a necessity for a writer? Do you need to have a really broad skill set? Who wants to start? Paddy.
I think you also need to be pretty good at finding work wherever you can find it, and doing any kind of job that people will allow you to do, even though they know you're a writer. That's always the danger. I try not to tell them.
Yeah, might be wise to keep it hid.
But you've all done all sorts of other jobs as well as writing jobs, haven't you?
I've done some ridiculous jobs, yeah. I try to get and work writing in there somewhere, but I've done, for example, a job writing pamphlets about spam, and an international agreement about spam that everybody ignored.
Because you can buy spam everywhere. Is there no copyright on spam?
So yeah, I've done sort of whatever I have to pay the bills, to support the habit that is writing.
When you are supporting the habit, is it, I know I've had this discussion with a lot of writer friends, is it best to do a job that keeps you writing, or is it sometimes a good thing to keep that completely separate, just do your job and come home and then write?
That's a very good question.
Like to answer? Sure.
Can't answer it. It's
I very much enjoyed being Miss Florida Grapefruit Queen once. And that didn't involve any writing at all. It involved carrying a tray of grapefruits around an outer suburban supermarket in Tokyo. This is quite a long time ago. A lot of people had never seen a foreigner before, and so I would approach them with my little cardboard crown and my tray of grapefruit pieces, and they ran. Except for one very old man who took a piece of grapefruit. He was about here, and he stood there chewing the grapefruit with his gums and looking at my breasts. And I thought, gee, I wish I could make a living as a writer.
Yes. What about you guys? Meg, you worked at The Big Issue for a long time.
Yeah, that was great.
Reading your book, Black Glass, you have there's big issue vendors in your book, and also it's from the perspective of people who I guess are marginalised, which is a very big issue thing. So in that sense, has your day job informed your writing?
Oh, that was a long time ago. It may have been when my career peaked, actually, 10 years ago when I was at the big issue. I guess, yeah, you end up using all sorts of stuff. At the time, I wasn't really writing any fiction. So I think you have to leave a little bit of a gap before you start writing about what you come across in your day job. Otherwise, you get in a whole lot of shit with a whole lot of people, I found. But yeah, sometimes you can find really good material from some of your jobs. Like I once was Merry Christmas. Santa's wife in a Christmas pageant in a shopping mall in Mornington, and he was a ventriloquist, and it was horrible, and he was an alcoholic, he couldn't remember his lines, and it was awful at the time. But I mean, I sold a story off, like I wrote a story about it and I sold a story off it, and then, you know, later, 10 years later, a ventriloquist popped up in one of my books. So yeah, I guess you just use the material later. I don't know where he got that material.
No?
Oh, God, no. Paddy, it's awful. I was wearing these horrible, like, hot pants because you reckon that would get the dads going. No, the doll was a wooden, like, creepy puppet.
Gee.
It's very, very like that, actually. But you should say that.
Sorry to put that idea into your mind.
Well, no, actually, that's who it was. But anyway, let's move along.
Moving on. So that's the kind of shit you can get yourself into.
Yeah.
Sean, you've never made that distinction. Oh, in your book, My Damn Life, you wrote that while you were in Amsterdam working at Wieden and Kennedy, the ad agency over there.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. But that was, it was easier to do because that was a non-fiction account of my damn life in Amsterdam, and my various sort of trials and tribulations there, trying to work out what I wanted to do with my stupid life, and not coming to any conclusions. But I think that also is a very good question, and one that I'm not going to just ignore. Because I think a lot of, not a lot, but me, and that's who else counts. I've spent my entire writing career basically working in advertising, except for a few, off periods where I worked in television, which was even worse, oddly enough. And I think a lot of, again, I'm overstating, not a lot, me. I work in advertising. I work in an office. A lot of people work in offices. All right, let's just establish that as a fact. A lot of people work in offices doing office-style jobs. And not a lot of literature addresses that. I can think offhand of Joseph Heller's excellent book, Something Happened, that Joshua Ferris book, And Then We Came to the End.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's not like a giant swelling subgenre of fiction about terrible jobs and the soul-destroying horror of spending just decade after decade trying to get out of, say, advertising by writing books and so forth and never making it. And yet I think there should be. And in fact, I tried to start it, or at least contribute to it, recently by revisiting my diaries. I was an assiduous diary keeper since I was 16. And I really hate it now. In fact, that was my last entry yesterday. I fucking hate writing in a diary. I hate it. I really do. Anyway, I was looking over my diaries from when I was at work, as I have been for a long time, and thinking there was quite a bit of material in there, and there really might be, but I bet no one will publish it. So I kind of gave that a half-assed attempt and then quit, which is what I would recommend as a strategy for nearly all forms of writing.
I hope the EWs out there are taking lots of cues from Sean at the moment. So work, I think we've established, can inspire writing and can help it out in some ways, even if it's by being so terrible.
And you can also sometimes, in some jobs, you can sneak a bit on the side if you keep the screen really small. You can do just a little bit.
But there's that other thing too, that everyone in the world thinks they're a writer. So if you're in a job being a writer in one of the dreaded offices, then a lot of people will be giving you help with your writing. I used to work as a copywriter, and it was in Japan. It was writing for the English trade magazines and stuff, and the people around me would be saying quite regularly, "We need more superlatives." And I'd say, "I'm writing about a liquid plasma television. What can I say?" And they'd say it's sparkling. It's the most sparkling one. I said, the point of the liquid plasma television is that it does not sparkle. But everybody had to have a say in what was coming out of my computer.
It's always good to get help, surely, right? Another thing that you three all have in common is that in some way, shape or form, travelling has informed your writing, and it's been a feature. And I know, Meg, you'd argue with that, but you did drive around with truck drivers for a couple of months, and that's travelling.
Yeah,
even
if
it's
travelling
just up the Newell or something like
round
that.
circles. Yeah.
Do you feel that you, as an Australian writer, you need to sort of get out and get an outside perspective? Or, I mean, Meg, you're from New Zealand.
I feel like an outsider, so it's hard. It's really tough. So I don't feel Australian anyway. So
that's fine then. But do you think is it worth is it an important thing to travel and get those perspectives and change your worldview and all that kind of stuff?
I think seeing different places is really good.
It's nice.
Yeah, weird places, horrible places, creepy places, strange places, exciting. I think that's good.
What's the strangest place you've ever been?
Self?
Strangest place I've ever been is probably in a crematorium, for a story anyway, in a crematorium with a guy stirring the dust of the people around with a stick very vigorously to get the metal bits out, and it all going up my nose. That was pretty strange.
Sean, a lot of your writing's been about travelling. I mean,
my
big
first,
drive and
I did 3 books for Lonely Planet, the Tony and Maureen Wheeler Centre Lonely Planet people. I, in fact, helped build this centre that we're here. And so, it was critical to travel because they were Lonely Planet books. And they were about me travelling. So I really couldn't have done them from home. Although, having said that, an interesting story is that when I was submitting my first piece for when Lonely Planet brought out their, I think now discontinued but excellent Journeys series, they said they wanted a book either about Australia or by an Australian writer, and I suggested driving around Australia because I fit the bill as an Australian writer writing about Australia, but I didn't have my driver's licence despite being quite old. And so I had to get my friend David to drive me and to do a sample chapter for this thing. And we decided we'd go away for the weekend to some godforsaken hellhole in Victoria, which I can't remember the name of, but they were having a buskers festival. So we went, and we booked a room in a pub, and we arrived in this place. I don't know what it was called, gonorrhea or something. And the place was crawling with buskers, and the pub was just a disgusting shithole. And so we went and drove back to Melbourne, and I pretended that I was away for the whole weekend and dummied up all this basically lies and submitted it, and the rest is my miserable history.
And here we are at the Condon Centre.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Sorry.
So yes.
So travel, important. Is it also imperative to do stupid stuff? To get material to write about, make bad decisions and lead a miserable life.
Sometimes stupid stuff happens by accident, though, doesn't it?
That's not the case with me. It happens nearly every day, really.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets into the writing and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes the writing also leads to stupid stuff. Like promotion often turns out to be really stupid. One time I did a promotion, and this covers both travel and staying at home and promotion, because a friend of mine who's right into Second Life, which is an immersive sort of 3D world, convinced me to do an interview in Second Life with someone who was in London. So I had to go into the computer and create an avatar.
So you didn't have an avatar already?
No, but she helped me. But then I thought I'd make a few adjustments before I went in.
Talk us through your avatar, Paddy.
And that's how I ended up with a green head. And so we started doing, and you have to have a different name. So my avatar had a name, but she kept calling me Paddy O'Reilly. And I'm tethered to the computer by this cord. It was quite odd. And this green-headed avatar that had a body like Elle Macpherson, I'll tell you, it was beautiful, was going... while I'm talking into the microphone. And then suddenly this noise started in the house, and it was a sort of... What is that? And I had to keep talking because it was a one-on-one interview and listening to her, and so I'm kind of walking out tethered to the computer with it and going as far as that line would go, and then I realised it's the dog. The dog is locked inside, and outside in the yard is a cat sitting right in the middle of the yard going, na, 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 na. And so the dog got more and more and more hysterical until it was screaming in an unearthly manner. It didn't sound like a dog. It didn't sound like a human. It sounded like some bizarre spectre, and it was so loud that she couldn't hear me anymore on the computer. And I had to say, would you excuse me a moment? There's a little wildlife outside and I just have to shut the door. And so she thought that it was some exotic Australian animal making this incredible ethereal howling. And that's gone down in the internet. This is the trouble with the internet. It is forever. And you can still hear that howling that belongs to no creature of this earth. While someone with a green head is talking about my stories.
Do you have the URL for that?
Yes, I have hidden that.
We'll tweet that later. I actually had a question written down here. What do you do if your life isn't interesting enough to write about? But I'm getting that maybe that isn't an answer, isn't a question that I need to ask you guys.
That's when you do stupid stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I do.
Or do you manufacture things in order to write about them? And
you can go and write. Other people have got more interesting lives. You can go and write about them.
Is that what you like? What you do when you're kind of stuck for something to write? Is go and explore other people's stories?
We make it up.
Yeah.
Fiction.
It's made up.
That's what that means.
Yeah. You do steal though, don't you?
Yeah, everybody steals without realising it, I think, sometimes.
Bits from people's lives.
Yeah. Had a theft issue today, actually, but it wasn't me. It's kind of, yeah. I'm not sure, what would you do in this situation, you guys? Okay, so you pitch a story to an editor at a magazine, and then you never hear back, and then they give it to one of their staffies or one of the regular freelancers, and it comes out exactly as you've pitched it. Do you get cross with the editor, or do you what do you do? I tried to get cross, but today on the phone, but then I was getting all like, I hope you don't think I'm being unreasonable, but it's just like very similar. And then he kind of talked for ages about how you're trying to book a table in the restaurant, and sometimes the restaurant's full, and he's shuffling all this paper on his and I think he was talking bullshit. But I ended up saying, well, I'm going to email you my pitch again and the story just so you can have a look at it. So he just kind of fobbed me off. But I think that, what would you guys do? Like, you've got to say something, don't you?
Yeah, you've got to say something. There's not really much you can do.
There's nothing you can do, but you have to say something.
What was the magazine? Who was the editor? What was the story?
I'll tell you later.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, you can't do much about that. But I think we should call them on it, because I think it's really sucks and it's really unfair. And that's one thing I've learned as I've gotten older to still clearly haven't got enough balls, but slightly more balls than I had when I was younger. Because and stop apologising all the time about stuff like that, and say, hey, no, this is actually not okay, without being a total jerk. I mean, it's this fine balance, isn't it? You know, doormat, total jerk, somewhere in the middle.
That's right, somewhere in the middle is good, but you're right, and you do have to say something. And as Lisa was saying before, you do have to ask to be paid, because what we do is work. And so all of those things are important. And even if you love writing and you think, oh, I'd write for nothing, I'd do it for nothing, don't do it for nothing. What you're doing is valuable, and you should be paid for it. And they shouldn't steal it from you either.
Was it the kind of idea that foreseeably somebody else could have come up with, maybe along the line?
Possibly, but the timing was kind of strange. And if they had, then surely he would have just written back and said, sorry, I've already commissioned this one, instead of pressing forward. Do you want to do it?
I actually had the same thing happen to me when I was a student, and I'd written an article for my journalism course at Deakin Uni, and sent it off to The Age and read it 3 days later. It was really good, the way that they'd written it, much better than I would have. But that was, and I think that actually scarred me, and I sort of, I'm not a journalist now. So.
That's not cool. That's nothing to be ashamed of.
It ruined me. It is, and it's good to get it out. Thank you. Therapy with all of you people. I mean, we are sort of, I guess, naturally moving into talking about the business of writing, and that is, I guess, must take up a lot of your time and thinking. You know, that only so much writing is involved in writing. A lot of it is finding people to read your writing and people to champion your writing. Have you guys noticed the industry change a lot in the last couple of years, or have you learnt how to negotiate it better, or is it getting worse for you?
Worse. Way worse.
Worse how?
Well, I mean, you know, it's no secret that publishing is in dire straits generally, but, you know, I think that's largely because readers are idiots, publishers are idiots, and writers are idiots. So, you know, I think between the three of us, we really fucked it up. And I can give justification for all of those statements. And things like borders closing down really doesn't help. And for me, you know, just to use a good example, I had a terrific agent, a really very big agent who was, it seemed, the last person on earth that liked my work. But fortunately, she had such literary currency in that world that if she gave it her imprimatur, then other people would believe it, which was handy, you know, when you were submitting patent crap. And it would just had a much easier time finding publishers. But she died. She had a brain aneurysm and she died. It's not funny. It was awful. I can see the funny side. No, I can't see the funny. It's not funny. Anyway, she died, and she was just a really terrific woman. And as I say, like a very, you know, very well-regarded English agent. And then I obviously had to try and find another one because she was dead in a non-humorous way. And I just couldn't get one. Could not get anyone interested in representing me. I have a lengthy back and forth between me and several, especially dickish agents from the US that I have copied the email exchange. I'd love to read them out, but unfortunately, this whole thing isn't about me. An oversight on the Wheeler Centre's part, I think you'll agree. But I mean, you know, just as an indication, as someone as clearly awesome as me has that much trouble finding someone to represent him, because really all you have to do is just take money off me. It's not a hard job being an agent. And I couldn't get one. I really hope my new one's not in the audience. until 2 years. And I mean, that just as an indication is, and nobody reads your books and nobody reviews them. It's just a terrible, terrible business. Cannot dissuade you urgently enough to stay away from.
Excellent. Is having an agent really important for people out there who are toiling away?
It is necessary. You can't get into a publisher's door without one. What
about self-publishing and the things that the technology are making possible these days?
I already feel like I'm doing a vanity project. As I said, my career feels like an expensive hobby. So the last thing I want to do would be, to actually pour another house deposit into this venture by self-publishing. I don't know. Works for some people.
I gave it some serious thought about this one book that I couldn't get anyone interested. Got an Australia Council grant for it. A lot of money from an esteemed institution. Wrote it, good book, got some very excited responses, and then, the brush off. And I really gave it some serious thought, but it was too depressing. It was just
And
horrible.
I think too that you have to have a certain level of entrepreneurial skill to be able to self-publish and make it worthwhile. If you want to self-publish and give it out to your family and friends, fine. But if you want to make a successful book, you have to be an entrepreneur, and most writers aren't entrepreneurs. I'm certainly not an entrepreneur. I couldn't sell anything to anyone, so that road has never interested me, but I can understand why if someone is a real go-getter and they've got a great book and they can't get it published, because there are many, many, many great books that don't get published, then yeah, they should go for it. But it's not going to be easy.
Another side that you guys need to think about, I guess, after you've gone through the steps of getting an agent, getting published, the promotion side of things, that can lead to a lot of fun and interesting stories, can't it? But how much do you have to take on yourself to promote your own book, and how much is too much?
I've heard a lot of stories. And every writer, I think, who is published by a big publisher or probably even a small one, is told that they will get 3 months of full-on publicity. They'll get, sent here and there to writers' festivals. They'll be promoted to booksellers. And I think the editor or the sales, the marketing person who says that to them truly believes it. Just like I truly believe it, and the author truly believes it, and it never happens. It never happens because Tim bloody Winton puts out a book.
Winton.
Or Peter Carey. Or Kate Grenville. And so your book just sinks down in importance in the marketing department. And so, you have to get out there and do it yourself, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You have to put in the effort. Like, I even got a website built and started a blog, which I didn't continue, but will. But yeah, I had to go and get photographs taken, like put makeup on, and get, they even slightly retouched the photos. If you look on the Wheeler Centre website, if you look at my forehead here and you look at the photograph on the website, it's not exactly the same. So, and I was told that it was very important to get good photos done. So, I felt like an idiot sitting there on the steps trying to look sort of, oh, that's right, my agent told me to look mysterious. So you just have to not worry about it, you just have to do it, I think. Yeah.
I learn a lot of things because mine's one that I took with my arm out like that with a digital camera going click.
I think they're often the better ones. They don't look so fake,
Yeah, it looks pretty fake.
Well, what lengths have you guys gone to promote yourselves?
I used to, when I was a little younger and had hope, I used to, because I was so fucking sick of not being invited to any. I've been publishing being published for, I don't know, coming up on 20 years. I've been invited to 4 writers' festivals ever, which just annoys the hell out of me because, the same people year after year just keep on showing up. Nick Earls, yes, we'll get him. Kate Holden, please, come on in. Chloe Hooper, come on. Just year after year, it's the same people. And I just got absolutely fed up with it. They had a travel writing festival here in Melbourne 2 years ago, and they invited everybody who had like even been on a trip and not even just been away, except me. And I've written 3 books for Lonely Planet. And I wrote to that woman saying, thoughts? And she said, oh yeah, I was going to, but then I just didn't get around to it. And 2 years later, she did the exact same thing. And again, I wrote, thoughts, but probably with a picture of a cigar and nothing. Anyway, so I used to just write to various festival directors of locations I was particularly interested in visiting. Bali, they have one there. Adelaide, but only because they've got wine. Anyway, so I wrote to, I got these back and forths with various festival directors, and they all crap on the say, oh yeah, we really want to, but Chloe Hooper, she's just so... And Nick Earls, oh, he's very funny. And, they're just the same bullshit reasons, and it's just hopeless. And, after years and years of this sort of pretty degrading activity, I have to say, you just give up and just say, well, fuck you. I'm really looking forward to seeing Nick Earls for the 1000th fucking time. And now I just don't care anymore. I really honestly do not... I've given up. I love watching TV.
It's just a phase. I don't think you should be
applauding that.
It's just a phase, Sean. It's just a phase.
Long phase. Really?
Don't tell me that. It won't
happen to you. It won't happen to you.
Come on.
It's singular to me. It really is. I'm like the least popular.
They call it the Condon effect.
Yeah, they do.
It's amazing. It does feel like we've explored the downside. So I might direct this question to Paddy and Meg.
Someone get Sean a drink. Does this work? Get Sean a drink, someone. Cheer him up.
What keeps you going? And how do you gauge success?
Well, getting an email from someone I've never met who had read the first story in my book of stories, and the email said, I read your story, and she got my address through the website. I read your story and I cried. And she said, and I rang up my friend and I read it to her on the phone, and then we both cried. And I thought, okay, I'll put up with some more shit to keep writing. That sort of thing. Yeah. It's the readers.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's when someone really enjoys your book and tells you so, and they've taken something out of it that you didn't even know was in there. This is kind of good sometimes.
Do you pretend that you meant to put it in there?
No, it's always different. Everyone's got... I felt... I don't know about success, but I felt very pleased when my nana liked my book, because my nana can't lie. She's a really bad liar, and it's got some like a bit of a grubby sort of non-nana scene in it. So I felt like that felt really good to me when my nana read it and she told me what she liked about it, and that so it's pretty sad looking at a measure of success. It's certainly not money, because if you put that up as a measure of success, there's probably like 20 successful writers in the world. You've got to keep trying to make a living out of it, but you can't. It's everyone, and it's so annoying. Do people always say to you, "What about J.K. Rowling?" It's like,
always. Why don't you write a fantasy novel?
So, what about J.K. Rowling? Sean, what keeps you going?
Well, nothing. I really have given up. I promise you, I handed in this manuscript on Monday and I just went, see ya.
Well, that's not giving up, that's having a rest. You just wrote a manuscript, dude.
No, that's it. Because on the, to use the nanoscale of success, my own mother couldn't get into my last book. Easily my best book. 30 pages, no. So that's a failure. That's a big failure.
That's all right. My mum once said to me, "This story is shit."
Still that one, mate?
No, my one of mine.
I had a neighbour of mine. I met him in the street, and we were walking along, and he met another neighbour, and I'm there, and he says, "This is Paddy. She's a writer. Her novel was rubbish, but her stories are okay."
It's good to have that honesty. Your neighbour wasn't Meg's grandma, was it?
No, it was Sean's mum.
I don't want to be too gloomy. I mean, it is fun. Like, we all know writing is heaps of fun. Like, it's hard work, but it's also kind of an obsessive, strange, demented kind of fun. So I think that's what keeps me going.
I think you can see an element of self-punishment in the panel up here.
I should second that. I do actually enjoy, turning a good phrase and so forth and being amused by it. I got to give it that. I do like that. But everything after what's on the page is just a giant pain in the neck.
But what about when you saw your book? How about that?
Books, plural.
Books, plural.
What about when you saw that? That was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. But it has been a while. No, that's great. I shouldn't diminish that from anyone. It's terrific. It really is. I just wish I saw they were still in print and that they were, widely available. They're just not. You can't even get them at reading. So I hate Mark Robbo. No, I don't.
What's the one piece of advice that you guys would give to...
Don't give up.
Don't give up, yeah. So seriously, don't give up. Sean's just having a lull. Like, you wait. Like, next year you'll be... Because I've known you for a little while, and
yes.
you were not always, of this world view. I think it's a phase.
Well.
I think it's a phase.
Yeah, maybe. Like, who knows? I mean, honestly, this new thing, it could turn around. Someone might really like it, and frankly, I'll just be happy if it gets published. Not even, the giant advances that I'm used to. You're quite right, Meg. And who knows? It's a mercurial, crazy world.
Paddy, what's your advice for the emerging...
Oh, I'm with them.
Yep.
I really am. That the road behind is littered with the corpses of extremely talented writers who just gave up because it was too hard. And it is hard, but I don't know. I'm probably a bit more relaxed about it than Sean, and I tend to think of it as a kind of long haul thing. You do what you like to do. You get it out as often as you can. You win some, you lose some, but you have to stay in the game. You have to stay there.